there a way to stop that when I go live, then the YouTube channel comes on and I have to shut it off? Otherwise, everything echoes back to me. You know what I mean?
I've never streamed on this.
Wait, there it is.
You can possibly just mute your YouTube.
Live, YouTube channel comes on and I have to shut it off. You see what I mean?
Yeah, just mute the volume on YouTube.
Okay, got it. All right. So today is Sri Krishna Madhura Utsava, which we'll just talk briefly about, and it's also the appearance day of Srila Narottama Thakur. So let me find the words to the little vajan here that Srila Narottama Thakur wrote for our transcendental enlightenment. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to chant this as he would travel all over India. But I guess others will have to mute if they want to sing along, otherwise it's going to be all disjointed, right? As far as I know, there's no way around that.
I'll be back.
Okay. Hare Krishna Ragabhumi, Mataji, God Sister, obeisances to you. Thank you for coming. So, Jai, Hare Krishna. I'm going to start the song by Srila Narottama Thakur that Lord Chaitanya would chant everywhere. Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Chaitanya
Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita
Hari Guru
Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita
Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasu Raghunath
Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta. No, keep it chanting.
No, because if you're chanting, I can't chant at the same time. Otherwise, it's not at the same time because of the time difference. So it's either, if you chant, then you have to mute yourself. Otherwise, your voice will not be in time with mine. That's why I stopped chanting to facilitate you if you're going to keep your microphone on.
I turn off.
Shiru Echaye Gosair Kori Charana Vandan Jaha Hoite Bignana Shabista Puran Echaye Gosair Kori Charana Vandan Jaha Hoite Bignana Shabista Puran Echaye Gosai Jal Muitara Das Tasabara Padarinu Mora Panchagras Echai Gosai Jal Muitara Das Tasabara Padarinu Mora Panchagras Tadara Charana Sebi Bhakta Shanebas Jana me hoy Hey Abilas Tadera Charana Sebi Bhaktasane Bas Jana me hoy Hey Abilas Echai go saye jabe prajaye koilo bas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Echai go saye jabe prajaye koilo bas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Ananda Bolo Hari Vaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Man Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Man Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash Nama Sankirtana Kohi Narottama Das Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Koriyash Nama Sankirtana Kohi Narottama Das Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So that is one of the many wonderful Vaishnav songs that Srila Narottam Das Thakur has written. He combined that mantra Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha that Lord Chaitanya would chant all over India when he was doing his Padayatra. So it looks like it's me, you, and Anne has come. Yay, Anne, thank you for coming. And so we can take a turn reading one translation each. I'll start, and then Ragabhumi, and then Anne, if you would please read one verse, that would be great. Otherwise, it's just going to be me and Ragabhumi doing all the reading. Others will come, but they may be a little late. Okay, the first verse. Hari, obeisances to Lord Hari, unto Krishna and Yadava, obeisances to Lord of the Yadus, Madhava, Keshava,
Gopala, Govinda, Rama, O vanquisher of Madhu, Giridhari, Lord of the Gopis, builder of the Cupid. And
and Anne just disappeared.
you do.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnavas Srimad Bhagavatam Bhagavad Gita.
All glories to Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, to Srila Jiva Goswami, Gopala Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunatha Dasa Goswami.
Jai, our dear governor. Ganeshwar has come to bless us. Hare
That's
Krishna.
eyeball.
We just sing Nama Sankirtan and tunes reading a verse. If you'd like to read number 5.
Talking to me?
Sorry?
You talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Number 5. I bow down to the feet of the 6 Goswamis. By their grace, our obstacles can be destroyed and all desires are fulfilled.
I am the servant of these 6 Goswamis. The dust of their lotus feet is 5 for subsistence.
To be a servant of the lotus feet and to reside in the company of a devotee, this is my aspiration, birth after birth.
When
8.
these six Goswamis lived in Braj, they revealed the eternal pastimes of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna.
In ecstasy, sing the name of Lord Hari. and worship Vrindavan, joyfully fixing your mind on the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master and the pure devotees.
The lotus feet of my Guru and the Vaishnavas are my aspiration. Narottama Das thus sings Harinama Sankirtana.
So let's hear what Prabhupada has to say with Dinesh Prabhu reading.
Narottama Das Thakur is very famous among devotees in Bengal and Orissa. When Lord Chaitanya returned from Gaya, where he was initiated by Sri Ishwara Puri, he was completely transformed into a God-intoxicated personality whom his students of grammar had never known before. Instead of teaching ordinary grammar studies, Lord Chaitanya explained every sentence in such a way that every Sanskrit word and every letter was understood to indicate Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This form of grammar was later on developed by Sri Jiva Goswami in a book called Harinamamrita Karana, the grammar of the nectar and name of Sri Hari. But when Lord Chaitanya's students thought that their teacher had become mad, and they rubbed his head with Vishnu oil, an oil that cools the brain. Finally, they asked him, "You say that everything means Krishna, and we should ultimately always be chanting the names of Krishna. Just how should we do this?" Scroll up. Then Lord Chaitanya began to sing the names of Krishna and clap his hands, and he began his Nam Sankirtan movement. The names he sang are the first two lines of this song. Narottama Das Thakur and others have placed these names in the beginning of their writings to immortalize these events in the memory of everyone.
Narottama Das Thakur chants the names of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Sri Advaita, and Sita, Lord Advaita's consort. Since Lord Hari, the spiritual master, and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita are all on the transcendental platform, they are given the same respect. Then Srila Narottama Das chants the names of the six Goswamis. I offer my obeisances at their feet, he sings, which destroy sufferings accumulated over many long years. I am the servant of these six Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet is my 5 kinds of foodstuffs. What does that mean, Dineshwar? What does it actually mean, five kinds of foodstuffs?
That which is licked, that which is drunk, that which is swallowed, that which is
Food and
sucked.
yeah, okay, thanks. To serve their lotus feet and keep the association of devotees is my only business, birth after birth. When the six Goswamis were staying at Vrindavan, they revealed the eternal transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna. Before Lord Chaitanya, the exact location of the places of Lord Krishna's pastimes were not known, and therefore Lord Chaitanya, what? Therefore Lord Chaitanya instructed the
Instructed.
Goswamis to uncover the holy places and construct temples. The temple of Shri Shri Radha Damodar is situated near the location of the Rasa dance, and Srila Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis used to gather there and discuss the topics of their literatures, which scientifically explain the super excellent pastimes of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Narottama Das Thakur says, in great ecstasy, shout the name of Hari and serve the real transcendental master and devotees. He concludes by saying, with all hopes in the lotus feet of my Guru and the holy Vaishnavas, Narottama Das sings the Sankirtan of Lord Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Is that Hri Haraya Namaha? First two lines?
Yeah, yes. Hi, Shuddha Sindhu. Welcome all the way from Malaysia. Hare Krishna. Thank you for
From
coming.
where?
How's your little boy?
Okay.
Malaysia. Penang?
Yes, Penang. Yes.
Have you been to Penang, Malaysia yet, Daneshwar? Have you been to Penang, Malaysia yet?
I haven't traveled to Southeast Asia.
Maybe should have.
West beyond Calcutta.
Maybe should have Sindhu invite you one day.
What time of the day is it there, Shudasindu, please?
It's Thursday, 8:48 a.m.
12 hours different.
Yeah. Okay, so I just have a little article here on the Sri Krishna Madhura Utsava, which is what today is, as well as appearance of Narottama Das Thakur. And it says there are various festivities where Lord Krishna's Rasa Leela is celebrated, this festival being just one of them. The Purnima, or full moon of Damodar month, is the second full moon of the autumn season, and Rasa Leela is again celebrated. The second Rasa Yatra is celebrated more in Bengal, whereas the first one is celebrated more in Vrindavan. So this is supposed to be a big festival in Bengal tonight. On this day, one should perform full worship of Radha and Krishna with many flowers and place them in a rasa mandap surrounded by the gopis. Sri Krishna Vasant Ras is similar, excepting that it is in the spring, Vasant. At this time, everyone dresses in yellow. On this full moon night, the devotees usually leave out pots of sweet rice, payasam, to the Lord, for the Lord, to enjoy during his rasas. Did you ever? I remember being in Vrindavan and celebrating that. We would put the sweet rice outside, I think, on the roof of Krishna Baba. But I can't figure out how we could do that with the monkeys. I'm putting my yellow outfit on. Have any of you celebrated that before, where you put the sweet rice out at night for Radha and Krishna and the gopis? Did you never did that, Daneshwar? Ragabhumi, you never did that?
Not sweet rice, maybe rabri.
Okay. Here it says payasam, which I remember being sweet rice. Okay, so let's see. I looked for many biographies of Narottama Das Thakur, and this was one of the most complete and lengthy ones that I could find, and I hope I can find it again. I sure hope I didn't delete it. Oh no, where is it? Krishna, please help me. You'll have to just bear with me for a moment. I had it. Let me look in my bookmarks here in my history. Oh, Messenger of Bhagavad Gita. Narottama. Okay, there it is. I think. I hope. Oh, that's just it. That's us.
Oh no, where is it?
Sorry, folks. How did I do this? Oh, there it is. Yay. Okay, just have to make this bigger now because I think this is a little bit small for most of the devotees, right? Tell me when. One more time. Oh, I need to put this back on so everyone can see. Excuse me. All right, great.
There you go.
Jai. Did you want to start, Dineshwar Prabhu?
Is there something above that? Is there a song or what's above that?
Oh, that's a whole other article.
All right. You're the boss. Tell me where to start.
Please just start at the beginning here. I'm the Das, you're the boss.
Thakur. Narottama Thakur was a lifelong brahmachari. He visited all the holy places and was the best of pure devotees. On the banks of the Padmavati River in the town of Gopalpura lived King Krishnananda Datta. His older brother was Purushottama Datta. The wealth and fame of these two brothers was beyond compare. King Krishnananda's son was Sri Santosh Datta. In the month of Magha, on the auspicious day of Shukla Panchami, Sri Narottama Das Thakur took his birth. Seeing many auspicious omens surrounding the birth of his son, Raj Krishnandan, what is it? Krishnananda.
Krishnananda.
Krishna.
Krishnananda.
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 Very pleased. And he gave lavishly in charity to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, seeing the all auspicious signs surrounding the child's birth, prophesied that the boy was a highly perfected soul and great personality, by whose influence many people would be delivered. Just as a crescent moon gradually becomes full, and the king's son grew more effulgent and beautiful with each passing day. His bodily luster was just like gold. His eyes were large and shaped like lotus petals. His arms extended to his knees, and he had a deep navel. All these are bodily symptoms of a Mahapurusha, a great personality. All the local townspeople used to gather to take darshan of the beautiful and saintly child. Soon the boy's Anaprashana Samskara, or grain eating ceremony, was held. At that time, in order to ensure auspiciousness and a bright future for his son, King Krishnananda gave much charity.
Shuddha Sindhu, please, 2 paragraphs.
The king's wife name was Sri Narayana Devi. Having given birth to such a wonderful son, she was floating in the ocean of ecstasy. She always kept the boy close to her and was always concerned for his well-being, caring for him constantly. The boy was extremely peaceful. Wherever his mother put him, he would quietly stay put. Within the ladies' quarters, the ladies used to nurture and care for the child with great ecstasy. Gradually, the day of his entrance into school, Madhukhari, approached. As his schooling went on, everyone was astonished at his amazing intelligence. Simply by hearing a subject once from his gurus, he would commit it to memory. In only a short time, he mastered the study of Sanskrit grammar, poetry, rhetoric, and became expert in many different scriptures. But gradually, he saw as useless any knowledge which did not promote Hari Bhajan, and soon lost interest in everything but Krishna consciousness. He found that in previous times, the learned who understood what real knowledge is left everything, renouncing the world of birth and death, and went off to the forest in order to worship the Supreme Lord Hari. Day after day, Narottama began to think of how he could become free from family life and constantly engage himself in the Lord's service. He was indifferent to all material enjoyment, where most children usually like to go to play. He was uninterested in playing games. At this time, hearing the glories of Sri Nityananda and Sri Gauranga from the lotus lips of the devotees of the Lord, his heart was filled with spiritual joy, as if he had been given new life. He felt great ecstasy. Within a few days of hearing the wonderful qualities of Gaura and Nityananda, he began to chant their holy names in japa day and night. One night, the merciful Sri Gaura Sundara, surrounded by his eternal associates, appeared to Narottama in a dream and gave him darshan.
After this, in order to understand how to become free from family life, Narottam Das Thakur began to think day and night of how he could go to Vrindavan. Narottam prayed, Hari Hari Kabe Haba Vrinda Vanavasi. Oh Hari, when will I become a resident of Vrindavan? When will I serve the beautiful divine couple in Vrindavan with tears in my eyes? In this way, Narottam would constantly sing. Seeing Narottam's indifference to all sense pleasure and his intense renunciation, King Krishnananda and Narayani Devi began to think about what to do with him. Seeing that he was not inclined towards family life and that he might soon leave home unexpectedly to go to Vrindavan, he became very worried. They employed a guard to watch over him so that he couldn't leave. Narottam Das saw that the difficulties involved in escaping were becoming more impassable than the Himalayas, and thought that he might never be able to go to Vrindavan and absorb himself in the of the holy feet of Sri Gauranga. Thinking only of how to get the mercy of Sri Gaura Nityananda, he began to pray very earnestly for guidance from them. And so it came to pass that some messengers came from the ruler of Bengal, informing King Krishnananda, that the ruler of Bengal wanted to meet with him. In order to meet with the ruler of Bengal, Raja Krishnananda and his brother Purushottam Das set out on a long journey to the court of the ruler of Bengal. So hearing that Narottam Das Thakur's father's name is Raja Krishnananda, then that's a reminder to me that Narottam Das Thakur is actually a prince. He's a prince. That's pretty special.
Yeah.
Bhagabhumi, would you like to?
Yeah. Narottama took advantage of the moment, thinking it to be a good opportunity to leave home. At that time, he secretly left his mother and his protectors, turned toward Vrindavana, and began his journey to that whole land. It was on the full moon day in the month of Kartika that Narottama Thakur left his family behind. Passing through Bengal in a short time, he soon found himself on the road to Mathura. All the other pilgrims he would meet were very affectionate towards Narottama, as they could recognize him as the son of the king. He would sometimes live by drinking milk, and sometimes would eat the roots and fruit as he went along. His constantly hankering to see Vrindavana made his hunger and thirst go away. As he moved from place to place, he would hear the glories of Gaura and Nityananda from the mouth of many devotees. In this way, he was always thinking about the Lord's feet, constantly absorbed in meditation. As he walked and walked, he prayed to the Lord's feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, as he has writing Arakabe Nitaichand. When will Nityananda show his mercy to me and free me from the world of birth and death? By his mercy, one may give up material enjoyment and purify his mind. In this way, by the mercy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, one can attain Vrindavana.
Laura, what year did he take his birth?
Let's see. That's a good question. Let me scroll up to the very beginning here, maybe, because I've seen other biographies where they actually give the year.
Is it right there?
If someone does a wiki, believe it or not, they have that information in the Wikipedia.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. I didn't want to create a big disturbance. I thought maybe you had read it before I came.
I had and I forgot. I thought it was 15 something or other.
So how long after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance?
That's an excellent question. Lord Chaitanya was here for 48 years. So what year was it that he departed? You know?
I don't know.
Was it 14? What Christian era was it? 1496, the same year as Columbus discovering America. What?
It would have been 48 Shabda.
Say again?
48 Shabda era.
Right. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I lost my place here. I'm trying to find my way back home. What was the last paragraph we read? Does anyone remember?
Roll down.
Is this it? In this way, walking
No.
and walking. Did we read that already? Did we read? Yes, we read Ara Ab Kabin Taichan, when Monichin on the show. That was read. So I think that's
Yeah,
Dineshwar
in
Prabhu.
this way.
Yes.
This way, walking and walking, Narottam Das
See you,
arrived.
Gora.
Narottam Das arrived in Madhura, and seeing the Yamuna, he offered many prayers. Remembering the names of the 6 Goswamis headed by Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan, he began to weep in ecstasy. Gradually, he came to Vrindavan itself and entered into that holy land. He was sent by Sri Jiva Goswami to the lotus feet of Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Maharaj was very ancient and so deeply agonized by the pain of separation from Sri Gauranga that it was as if his very life had been taken away. Narottam offered his obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Lokanath, and Lokanath asked him, "Who are you?" Narottam said, "I am your fallen servant. I wish to serve your lotus feet." Lokanath replied, "How can I, who am unable to serve or Nityananda, accept any service?" After this, Narottam Thakur would secretly go in the middle of the night to the place where Lokanath Maharaj would pass stool and urine and cleanse the area, maintaining everything there very nicely. After a year of serving in this way, his service was recognized by Lokanath Goswami and bestowed his mercy upon Narottam Thakur. On the full moon day of the month of Shravana, he initiated Narottam Thakur as his disciple.
Don't forget to go out tonight. After we finish reading, I'm going to go and do some japa in the full moon. I didn't realize that this was a Rasa Leela night. Shuddha Sindhu, your turn.
He used to eat by practicing Madhukhari and would study the Goswami scriptures under the guidance of Sri Jiva Goswami. Srinivas Acharya was his dear friend, and together the two of them used to study under Jiva Goswami. At that time, Shamananda Prabhu arrived from Gauda Desh. He also began studying the Goswami scriptures under the guidance of Sri Jiva Goswami. These three, with one mind, performed their bhajan in Vrindavana, and yet still they felt that their inner aspiration had not attained its complete fulfillment. On one day, Jiva Goswami called the three of them to him and said, "In the future, you must preach the message of Sriman Mahaprabhu far and wide. Taking the literatures of the Goswamis, you must quickly go to Bengal and begin preaching."
Do you know, Shuddha Sindhu, do you know what is Madhukhari? Raghubhumi, can you explain to Shuddha Sindhu what is by practicing Madhukhari?
You do.
Raghubhumi?
You do.
Well, I know, but let's hear from Daneshwar Prabhu.
Madhukhari means they would go begging and eat only what they would collect. I don't know, either at the first house or one house or just after a short time. There's some, different different rules, but basically it means just begging and eating only what you collect that same day.
I
That's
was
my, that's
yeah.
what I know.
Well, I was amazed one day I was in Vrindavan and I saw all these sadhu going from home to home, and they were carrying a lota with, and I believe madhukar means like a bee, like the way a bee goes from flower to flower. So they're going from house to house, getting a chapati here, getting some dal from there, rice from here. And I thought, wow, that's just like, because I remember reading that Prabhupada practiced Madhukar in Vrindavan. He did like this also. So I thought that was so cool to see like this ancient tradition still going on in Vrindavan. They were all in their saffron clothes. Of course, you can always dress up in saffron and go and get some free chapatis, rice and dal. Prabhupada says like that.
You can go to Krishna Balaram Mandir and not have to beg at home.
That's true. Oh, Krishna. The three of them gave up. What do you think, Daneshwar Prabhu? Should we stop for any further comments, or should we save the comments for the very end?
There's only a few of us, and there's not too many comments. So
I've got some other comments I'd like to make, if I may. When Narottama Das Thakur was a little boy, it said he was very quiet and he was like very peaceful. He didn't create a disturbance. And I remember reading a quote from Srila Prabhupada saying, because sometimes you'd be hearing those lectures of Prabhupada in Los Angeles or different places, and the baby wah, is going, crying, and Prabhupada would say it's the expertise of the mother if she can keep the baby quiet, then that shows how expert the mother is. So that thought came to my mind when I was reading this. Of course, that can be a great challenge, I suppose, for some others. I was thinking how I was appreciating Narottama Das Thakur's great desire to go to Vrindavan, and how he had to sneak away from his home. And I'm thinking, what's stopping me? Probably because I don't want something stuck up my nose or in my arm. That's what.
who is that other saintly personality who was married? That they married their son to a beautiful wife, and he wouldn't stay. He still was trying to run away.
Was that Raghunath Das Goswami?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just appreciating his yearning, this very, and then I was reflecting myself how contaminated I am, because I'm thinking, wow, like a long time in, because I remember Ayendra Prabhu told me that he got every disease under the sun. Like he got malaria many times and he got jaundice many times, and I'm thinking, do you really want? Are you that determined to go to Vrindavan that you're willing to get malaria and jaundice and everything under the sun? So I see, that I'm a wimp. I have this reluctancy. I heard living there in the. What's that, Daneshwar?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing a voice. I don't know where it's coming from. Yeah. So living in Vrindavan is hardcore. I mean, I heard in the summertime they have sandstorms. The sand gets in everywhere. I know these are material considerations. I'm just expressing my own. I see, I'd love to visit there. I did live there for 3 months, I think, at one point. But to live there through the summertime, that's quite an austerity. Pardon?
I was in Vrindavan in April one year,
Yeah.
and it was so dry, I was getting nosebleeds.
Wow.
And you're right about the sandstorms. It was the sandstorms would come up and the sand would go everywhere. Practically, it was inescapable. It was, if you were outside, you had to run inside very quickly. Otherwise, you'd go all in your eyes, your hair, everything.
Wow. Yeah. So all glories to Ayendra Prabhu. And even that dam for so many years. Sandstorms, malaria, jaundice, you name it, he had it. But he stuck it out. Over 20 years, keeping the 24-hour kirtan going.
Looks like I just missed some nectar right here.
Yeah. I was appreciating Lokanath Das Goswami's humility, how when Narottama Das Thakur was trying to take shelter of him, and he said, how can I accept any service from you if I can't even serve Gora and Nityananda? I'm not even in their service. Daneshwar, I can't hear you. What?
Like Gornikai had recently
Can't hear you. I don't know why. I'm listening.
Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda had only recently left, and that he was in such lamentation that, you know how when you're deeply unhappy, you lose your appetite, you don't want to do anything. So I think probably it was, might have been in that state of mind.
That he was so devastated. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. So whose turn is it now? Is it your turn, Daneshwar?
I just finished.
Okay, and Shuddha Sindhu. So it's Raga Bhumi and then Pradyumna. The three of them gave up their residence?
The three of them gave up their residence in Vrindavana and accepting the order of their guru on their heads. Taking the treasured scriptures of the Goswamis with them, they started on their journey to Bengal. As continued on their way, gradually they came to Vanavishnupur. In Vanavishnupur lived a king of dacoits and thieves named Sri Bilhambil. At night he had the scriptures stolen, thinking them to be treasure of some kind. Awakening in the morning and seeing the scriptures stolen, the three of them felt as if their heads had been hit by a thunderbolt. Miserable beyond description, the three of them began searching the four directions for the scriptures until finally news came to them that King Behambir had stolen the books and was keeping them hidden in his royal storehouse. At this, Sri Shamananda Prabhu headed for Utkala and Narottama started for Ketoringram, while Srinivas Acharya stayed behind, thinking to somehow deliver the Goswami's books from the king's storehouse.
Raga Bhumi?
In order to see the holy birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narottama went to quickly visit Navadvipa. Arriving there, he began chanting, O Gaura Hari, O Gaura Hari, on the banks of the Ganges, hundreds and hundreds of times, and offered many prayers to the Lord. Sitting beneath the shade of a tall tree, he began to wonder, what is the actual place of Sri Chaitanya's birth? He sat there for some time, thinking of what to see next. Just then, an old Brahmana happened to walk by. Narottama Dasa rose to his feet to show respect to the Brahmana. The Brahmana said, Baba, from where have you come? What is your name? Keep reading.
Narottama introduced himself. Narottama introduced himself and expressed his...
Right. I go after Raga.
Okay.
Okay. It's all mixed up now. I'm after her, but I don't care.
You're first, second.
Pradyumna's supposed to be there, but we don't even know if he's here.
Press his
Oh, I
desire.
am not available for reading.
Okay. So I was just following the order that I see on my screen. Narottama introduced. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Sometimes your voice goes in and out.
Your voice.
Okay. Sorry. Narottama introduced himself and expressed his desire to see the holy birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. The Brahmana replied, "Today my life has become auspicious, for before my eyes is a dear devotee of Sri Chaitanya." Narottama said, "Baba, have you seen Chaitanya?" The Brahmana replied, "What are you saying? Every day, Nimai Pandit sits with his disciples at this ghat and discusses the Shastra, and then from a distance I watch and wonder at the beauty of his divine form. Today I remember seeing that very form sitting beneath this tree where he sits every day." As the Brahmana spoke, tears of ecstasy poured from his eyes. Narottama said, "Baba, it is the fortune of a lifetime that I've beheld you with these eyes." Saying this, tears fell from his eyes also. Falling to the ground, Narottama touched the Brahmana's feet to his head. Brahmana said, "Baba, I give you my blessings that soon you will attain devotion to the lotus feet of Govinda. At that time, you will preach the glories of Gaur Govinda far and wide."
Shuddha Sindhu.
After this, the Brahmana showed Narottama Das the path to where the house of Jagannatha Mishra was. Finding that path, Sri Narottama walked until he came to the house of Jagannatha Mishra. Arriving at the house of Jagannatha Mishra, he fell down at the door with tears in his eyes and offered his full obeisances, while reciting various prayers in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Entering within the house, he had darshan of the lotus feet of Shuklambara Brahmachari. Narottama offered his respects to his feet. From different signs, Sukrambara Chakrawati could understand that Narottama was an agent of Sri Chaitanya's mercy. He asked, "Who are you?"
Ragabhumi.
Narottama introduced himself, explaining that he had been living in Vrindavana under the care of Jiva Goswami and Lokanatha Goswami, and that he had just arrived in Navadvipa. Sri Lokanatha said, "Baba, you have come from Vrindavana. You were with Lokanatha and Jiva Goswami." At length, he made Narottama Das rise, embraced him heartily, barraging him with endless questions about the well-being activities and good health of the Goswami. In this way, he asked on and on with Narottama, as he wanted to hear all about Vrindavana and everything that was going on there. Finally, Narottama got to meet Ishantakura, the old servant of Sri Satyamata, and up meet him, he offered his prayers of respect at his lotus feet and introduced himself. Sri Ishantakura touched Narottama's head, bestowing him blessings upon him, and then embracing him affectionately. After this, Narottama met Sri Damodara Pandita and offered his respects to him. After this, Narottama went to the house of Shrivas Pandit and offered his respect to Shripati and Srinidhi Pandit. All of them affectionately embraced Narottama. After staying for a few days in Mayapur, Narottama went to visit the house of Advaita in Shantipura. There he offered his respect at the lotus feet of Achyutananda. Achyutananda introduced himself and inquired after the health of well-being of the Vrindavana Goswamis.
I have a question for Dineshwar Prabhu. I'm trying to understand, Dineshwar. Here we see that Narottam Das Thakur is actually there while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is present and his associates interact. How come we never read this in Charitamrita?
The way I heard that Ramana was seeing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya had already departed,
Oh,
like that.
uh-huh.
Because we earlier heard that Lokanath was lamenting that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were no longer present.
Yes. Yes. So this expression that we use, that so and so is the contemporary of, or the predecessor of. Predecessor means one who came before, and contemporary means same time, or well, sorry, can't hear you.
Yes, correct.
Contemporary means like a peer, same time.
Here, like you and I.
Right. Okay. So then, what is someone like Narottam Das Thakur who comes after? What is that the expression for that?
Who came after?
There's a predecessor, contemporary, and then next one.
Successor.
Successor. That's the term. Thank you. So Narottam Das Thakur is the successor of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Okay. My turn to read. All right. Narottam introduced himself, or did we read this now? I think I have to go to the next paragraph, right?
No, it's. I don't know.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Yeah. After staying in Shantipur for 2 days, he went to Ambika Kalna to the house of Gauridas Pandit. At the time, Sri Hridai Chaitanya Prabhu was staying there. He was the disciple of Gauridas Pandit. Sri Narottam offered his respects to Hridai Chaitanya. The two of them affectionately embraced, and Narottam gave him news of the activities of the Goswamis in Vrindavan. After staying in Ambika Kalna for a day, he went on to the place where the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati meet, a village called Saptagram. In that place, Udaran Dutt Thakur lived. Sri Nityananda Prabhu had previously given his mercy to the residents of Saptagram, and so all the people there were great devotees. After the disappearance of Udaran Dutt Thakur, the people in the village felt like they had lost their vision. Sri Narottam went to the house of Udaran Dutt Thakur, and there he found that the devotees were absorbed in separation from their guru. In great agony, passing their days, Narottam Das offered his respects to all the Vaishnavas there and continued on his way to Karadahagram. Dineshwar.
I'll read in a minute. Hear that?
Yeah.
I'm setting up my notebook.
Oh,
because this connection is not very good.
yeah, hopefully it works better. Do you want me to read, or in Karadahagram, Sri Nityananda Prabhu had a residence where his two energies, Sri Vasudha and Janava Devi, lived. Sri Narottam went to the house of Nityananda and remembering the sublime holy name of Nityananda, his voice choked up in ecstasy. Sri Parameshwari Das Thakur took Sri Narottam within the inner portion of the house reserved for women and brought him to the lotus feet of Sri Janava Mata and Sri Vasudha. Being introduced to Narottam, who they could understand, had received the mercy of Lokanath and Jiva Goswami. They bestowed their mercy upon him. It is said in the Bhakti Ratnakar that both Vasu, who was the knower of all truth, and Sri Janava, who is the supreme mistress, bestowed their incomparable mercy upon Narottam. I'd like to ask Daneshwar Prabhu a question. So here it's making reference to Janava Mata, the consort of Lord Nityananda. Actually, he had two of them, Sri Vasudha and Janava Devi. Okay, so my question is, just an hour and a half from where I am right now in Toronto, Srila Prabhupada was speaking to Professor Joseph O'Connell. And Professor Joseph O'Connell asked Srila Prabhupada, can women become spiritual masters? And Prabhupada said, yes, but not so many. And then Prabhupada gave the example of Janava Mata. So I'm thinking, my God, if Janava Mata is an example of the level of advancement that a woman should be on to becoming initiating guru, then it would only make sense to say that the men would have to be on the level of Lord Nityananda to be initiating guru. I was wondering if you could comment on that, please, Daneshwar. Can't hear you. Sorry.
I do.
Okay, now I hear your voice. Try again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
The other side, that, okay, if the women have to be the category of Mother Janava, then why aren't the men required to also be in such category? The answer to that is Prabhupada did not give that criteria.
That Prabhupada did give that criteria. Well, he did not, you're saying.
Chat box.
It's like you talk, and then the end of your sentence comes out. But the first part, we don't hear. I don't know why.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the answer is Prabhupada did not give the criteria that the men had to be at the same level of Lord Chaitanya. Okay. In other words, it's a rare exception for a lady to take that position
Right.
for both social reasons as well as spiritual reasons. So Prabhupada said yes, but not so many.
And so by social reasons, that would mean
The
like,
culture of the day. The culture of the day.
okay, all right, but using that argument, and I'm not promoting pro or against, I'm just trying to understand. So the culture of the day today is not the same as the culture of the day then, correct?
Yeah, the culture of today is far more fallen.
Yes, much more degraded.
Yeah.
Do the ladies, do you have any thoughts on this point before we move on?
About the woman to become guru?
And what Prabhupada said about it.
Yes, if they are qualified, why not?
And he gave the example of Mother Janava, the associate of Lord Nityananda, as an example of a qualified guru for women. So I don't know of any women that are on the level of Mother Janava today.
does not has to be in the same level maybe, but qualified, serious, and understand very, very well the philosophy, and has a spiritual realization, very mature. So many other qualifications there are there.
Right. So, yes.
In other religions, I met so many women, they are leader there, and the men respect them. They treat them as a great personality, and they are very much chaste, educated, and they know how to preach nice and travel around the world. Why should it be different in ISKCON?
Daneshwar Prabhu, you have a response for that?
I'm not paying it. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sitting at my notebook.
Oh, yeah, Mother Ragabhumi was saying that we see women in other spiritual traditions and they travel all around the world and they're chaste and they're spiritually inspiring. That was your main point, Ragabhumi?
They preach like the men, they do the same.
They do the same as the men.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ladies in ISKCON may also preach like the men, but Diksha is something else. Hang on.
But what?
But Diksha is something else, he said.
Anyway, I
So-
don't want to.
It's a long and convoluted conversation, and I don't know why we want to get into it here because
Okay.
it's never ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
I personally don't feel qualified to comment on it.
Okay. It will be interesting when we see these qualified female gurus giving sannyas to men,
Hare Krishna.
because it's a sannyas that's supposed to give sannyas to a man, right? But women cannot take sannyas. So that's an interesting point.
Why do you want to go there?
I won't. Okay.
My turn to read.
So should have sent. Okay, go ahead. 4 days
Four
later.
days later, Narottama, after having spent much time discussing Krishna Katha in great ecstasy with Sri Janava and Vasu, bade them farewell and left for the town of Kanakula, Krishna Nagar, to see the place of Abhiram Gopal Thakur. Having met him, Narottama offered his respects to the feet of Abhiram Gopal. He was passing his days in great pain of separation from Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. He had become extremely internal, barely spending any time in the plane of external consciousness. Seeing him in that condition, Narottama wept a great deal. The Gopinath deity of Abhiram Thakur was wonderful to see. Narottama took darshan of the deity and recited many prayers and verses in praise of the Lord before the deity. The next day, after taking his leave of the house of Abhiram Gopal, Narottama had some inspiration from within and set out for Jagannath Puri.
Should have Sindhu and then Ragabhumi.
Totally absorbed in thinking of the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it seemed to Narottama that he reached in Jagannath Puri in no time at all. Sri Gopinath Acharya and many other devotees, see Narottama on the path, all went out to greet him on the road. In this way, surrounded by devotees, he arrived in Jagannath Puri. After Sri Narottama had paid his obeisances at the lotus feet of Gopinath Acharya, and the Acharya had warmly embraced him, Gopinath Acharya said, "This very day I was hoping that you might arrive." So Narottama and all the devotees from Vrindavan and Bengal began talking on and on about Krishna, Gauranga, the Goswamis, and many other things. All the devotees were very happy to have Narottama in their midst, and they took him to a darshan in the temple of Jagannatha. While taking darshan of Jagannatha, Baladeva and Subhadra, Narottama offered many fine prayers in their glorification and bowed down before them again and again.
After this, he went to the Samadhi of Haridasa Thakura, drew near to that part of the Gopinatha Diti where it is said that Mahaprabhu entered into. When he disappeared
Wait a
from
minute,
his earth,
you missed the whole paragraph.
what?
You missed the whole
What?
paragraph.
I did? Which one?
You started at
Af-
after this he went, and then you jumped to the next paragraph.
My glass. After this, he went to the Samadhi of Haridasa Thakura and up arrived there, began to drown in the ocean of Sri Krishna Prema. After this, he went to the house of Gadadhara Pandit and began to shout at the top of his lungs in a loud voice, "All life and soul of Gauranga, all Gadadhara." Thereafter he took darshan of the Tota Gopinath Diti and offered his respects at the lotus feet of Sri Manu Goswami Thakura, who was at that time engaged in the service of Sri Gopinath.
Has everyone here seen the Tota Gopinath deity in Jagannath Puri? You're speaking, Prabhu.
Personal?
Your lips are moving, but I can't.
Yeah, I went, but I was not allowed entry to the temple.
Oh, I don't know why I was. I'm certainly much less qualified than you. But I went in, and Tota Gopinath is such a cool looking deity. He's like sitting up, and he's got like his, well, it's hard for me to show, but it's like he's got one leg sitting on top of the other, like one knee is up and one leg is down. And there's a little crack in his knee. And they say that that was one of three places that Lord Chaitanya entered into when he disappeared.
Oh, wait. Tota Gopinath. I'm sorry, I forgot. I mistook. No, I did go to Tota Gopinath temple, yeah.
He's really a special deity, isn't he?
Yeah.
Now, he's playing his flute, but he's got one leg up.
I didn't hear that about the crack, though. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I heard that Lord Chaitanya disappeared in three places simultaneously, and I don't know if this is Shastric, but the Bay of Bengal, Tota Gopinath, and I don't know, did he merge into Jagannath, or is that just speculation? I can't remember. Do you remember?
Heard Tota Gopinath. I don't know anything else.
Have you heard Ragabhumi?
No.
Okay. Generally, Vaishnavas don't like to talk about the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. Daneshwar, you're going to say something?
No.
Okay. All right. Your turn, Prabhu, Daneshwar. Thereafter.
Thereafter, Sri Narottama Das Thakur drew near to that part of the Gopinath deity where it is said that Mahaprabhu entered into when he disappeared from this earth by entering into the deity in the presence of his devotees. This is recorded in Bhakti Ratnakara. Quote, "It is difficult to understand the movements of that crown jewel of sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Upon his disappearance, all of a sudden the earth became dark. He entered into the Gopinath Mandir and never came out. In this way, he left the visible plane and entered into the invisible plane." Should be close quote there.
Yes.
I guess that's Bhakti Ratnakara.
Yeah.
837.
Yeah, and I remember there's two female Shakti deities there. I believe that they're Vasudha and Janava. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Okay, hearing of the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narottam said, "O Satchinandana, O Gaura Hari," and fell unconscious on the ground. Seeing Narottam's bewildered state of separation from the Lord, all the devotees began crying tears of praying. After this, Narottam went to the house of Kashi Mishra, took darshan of the generous lotus feet of Sri Gopal Guru Goswami, and saw the deities at the Radha Kanta Mat. So at this Radha Kanta Mat is where you can see the Gambira, where Lord Chaitanya spent, how many was it, 14 or 12? How many of his last years, Daneshwar, do you remember?
14.
14. And he'd be crying in there, and he would go through the walls. Amazing. I'm amazed that I haven't been there since the 1980s, or maybe, no, 1990s I was there. Okay, after this he went to the Gundicha temple for darshan and remembered the Lord's pastimes in the Jagannath Ballabha gardens. So I remember around 1980, I was young brahmachari, freshly shaved head, saffron, and I couldn't get into the Jagannath temple. I thought, well, I'll go to the Gundicha temple instead. And so I was walking to go in it, and there was a guard standing there with a rifle or a spear stick or something. And he stuck his stick out at me like he wasn't going to let me go by. And I said, why can't I go to the Gundicha Mandir? And he said, you are Christian. And I looked at myself with the tilak on my face and holding the japa mala. I said, do I look like a Christian? I said, what does that mean? You're a Christian. He said, you eat meat. I said, no, I don't. I haven't eaten meat in a few years. I was going to say, do you eat fish? But I didn't think that would be a nice thing to say. So I turned around. My memory of going to the Gundicha Gardens and Jagannath Ballabha Gardens. I believe that's where Lord Chaitanya spoke. Who did he speak to? Was it Maj
King Prataparudra.
Yeah, yeah. Then he visited. Oh, and another thing I remember about Jagannath Puri is I was wandering through the downtown area, Grand Street, and I wandered into this place, and I went up to the second floor, and it was all these young men studying Sanskrit together, and I felt like I had entered like into a time warp. It was so cool. I just realized, how I'm coming from such a different culture. I was wishing I could have been one of those young men studying Sanskrit. Okay, so after a few days having experienced great transcendental bliss in the association of the devotees of Jagannath Puri, and having visited all the places of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he took his leave of the devotees and left for Sri Narasimhapur. Once there, he went to Shyamananda Prabhu's house, seeing Narottam after such a long time. Shyamananda Prabhu was floating in the ocean of ecstasy, in the ecstasy of Krishna Prem. The two of them joyfully embraced one another, Shuddha Sindhu.
I have a question, please.
Yeah.
I remember the story of all the case of books being stolen in a very different way, that the king, having heard that those devotees were carrying something extremely valuable, plundered their possessions. But then when he opened it up and found books, he was disappointed and he didn't understand the value of those books. And that the devotees, they got them back, and that they continued to bring them to Navadvip. So do you remember that same way, or?
Wow, it's been years since I read that pastime. I've got the book here by Satyaraj Prabhu.
Yeah, anyway, that's because in this story, they're not continuing what happened to the books. It's a cliffhanger.
Maybe it'll come back to that. Maybe. I see Sikarani's with us. So anyway, this time around.
Well, and Anne is there.
But Anne will not read for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. And
We have
Rasangi?
8 people.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Pradyumna is there.
No, he does not read.
Mm.
He's maybe putting his little son to bed. He puts his children to bed between 8:30 and 9. All right. Whose turn is it? Shuddha Sindhu, did you read?
Jayamananda Prabhu, out of affection, kept Narottama in Narsingapura for many days, not allowing him to leave. Sri Narottama sanctified the town of Narsingapura by drowning everyone there in a nectarian flood of Sankirtan. Together, Shamananda and Narottama would go on discussing Krishna Katha in great ecstasy, without any knowledge of whether it was day or night. After some time, Sri Narottama Thakur bade farewell to Sri Shamananda Prabhu and set out for Gaudadesh.
Ragabhumi?
It's not any.
She's not reading. She won't read.
Huh. He quickly came. I can see. He quickly came to Sri Khanda. There he offered his respect to the lotus feet of Sri Narahari. I don't know, my glass is not
Sarkara
good.
Thakur.
Garhari, Sankar, Thakur, and Sri Raghunandana. Sri Narahari, Sankara Thakur had great affection. I don't know what's happening. Great affection for Narottama Das's father. Sri Krishnananda. Oh my God. Sri
If you
Krishnananda.
all
Offering
read,
his
if
respect.
it's too much.
Can you ask someone to read it? Because I can't see properly with my glass.
Tanishwar,
Something happened.
Tanishwar, you're next. If you want to read this one and the
I
next one.
can read.
Oh,
Hello.
Sikarani, yes, please. Please.
Yeah. He quickly from there. Should I read from there or?
You can start again. Yeah,
Offering his respects to Narottama in return.
yeah.
Okay. Narahari blessed him many times, touching him on the head with his hand. Sri Raghunanda embraced him affectionately. They asked him to tell them all about the devotees in Jagannathapuri. In this way, Narottam went from one place to the next in Sri Khanda, his transcendental pleasure always increasing. Narottam spent many days in Sri Khanda in great happiness, performing Sankirtan and dancing in association of the devotees there. Bidding farewell to all the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu in Sri Khanda, he went on to Kanthak Nagara, to the house of Gadadhara Das Thakur. He fell before the house of Gadadhar Das, offering his respects, and Gadadhar Das affectionately embraced him. The Bhakti Ratnakar says, seeing Narottam, Gadadhar was Das embraced him with great affection, wetting his body with tears of joy. Sri Gadadhar Das Prabhu was passing his days in the pain of separation from Gaura Nityananda. Narottam Thakur stayed there for 2 days and then left to see the birthplace of Sri Nityananda Prabhu in Radha Des. And so Narottam went to Eka Chakra Gram to visit the holy place of Nityananda's birth. There, an old Brahmana who was affectionately disposed towards Narottama showed him the different holy places where Nityananda had performed his Leela. Remembering the holy names of Khadai Pandit and Padmavati Devi, Narottam fell to the ground, his voice choked up with ecstasy. After seeing the holy birthplace of Nityananda, Narottam started out for Kheturi Gram. As the Bhakti Ratnakar says, after inquiring about the way to Kheturi Gram from the local people, he quickly came to the banks of the Padmavati. Crossing over the Padmavati, he arrived in Kheturi. Upon his arrival, all the people of the village wanted to be the first to meet him. Since Narottam had been away for so long, the residents of there was a big welcoming celebration. Hearing of his arrival, the residents of Keturi Gram all began making the father and uncle of Narottam. All began making preparations to welcome him. Raja Krishnananda and Sri Purushottam Datta, the father and uncle of Narottama, had already passed away. Narottama's uncle had a son whose name was Sri Santosh Datta. After the passing of King Krishnananda and Purushottama, he was shown much wealth and material enjoyment. Santosh was the foremost of saintly persons in the village. And when he heard the Narottam Thakur was about to bless that town with his holy footsteps after such a long time, in order to be the first one to greet Narottam, he rushed out with the rest of the devotees to wait for him on the road outside Kheturi Gram.
After some time, Narottam could be seen in the distance. Upon seeing him, Santosh, after bowing prostrate with full obeisances, went forward with tears of ecstasy in his eyes, falling on the ground again and again to take the dust of Narottam's lotus feet. At this, Narottam affectionately embraced Santosh and asked how he had been faring all this time, asking him many questions about his health, happiness, and well-being. A few days later, Narottam Thakur initiated Santosh with the Radha Krishna mantra. Raja Santosh Dutt had previously wanted that a temple to be built and a deity installed. Now he begged at Narottam Thakur's lotus feet for his permission. Narottam gladly gave his approval. Shudha Sindhu?
Within a few months, Raja Santosh Datta had seen to it that a large temple was built. The temple compound included a big storehouse for food, a kirtan hall, a residence hall, and ashram for devotees, a bathing pond, a beautiful flower garden, and a guest house. On the full moon day of Phalguna, on the festival day of Mahaprabhu's appearance, the temple was dedicated and the deities were installed, and a great festival, which can only be compared to the Raja Suya Yajna of Yudhishthira Maharaja in its vast expansiveness, began and was celebrated for miles around. Messengers were sent out for miles around Kheturi Gram to near and distant lands to invite kings, landowners, poets, pandits, Vaishnavas, authors, as well as many other illustrious guests. Some were sent far and wide to invite the topmost singers and orators. Preparations were made to install 6 deities at one time.
Bhagabhumi.
The
Oh, no.
great festival.
You're having
What?
problems reading, right? With your eyes?
Yeah, I put the phone very close to my eyes. It's a big one.
Well, that's
The
not good
great
for your eyes.
festival of the great festival of Kheturi Gram in Budarigram at the house of Govinda Kaviraj. The news came of the festival. All the devotees there, along with Srivasacharya, soon set out for an auspicious visit to the great festival in Kheturi Gram. Within a few days from Nishringapura in Orissa, came Sri Shamananda Prabhu from Koradoha, came Sri Janavamata and Sri Parameshwari Das, Krishna Das Sarakel, Madhavacharya, Raghupati Vaidya, Minadekana Rama Das, Murari Chaitanya, Madhavacharya, Raghupati Vaidya, Minadekana Rama Das, Murari Chaitanya Das, Gyana Das, Mahidara, Shri Shankara, Kamalakara Pipalai, Gauranga Das, Nakari, Krishna Das, Damodara, Balarama Das, Shri Mukunda, and Shri Vrindavana Das Thakur. From Shri Kanda came Shri Raghunanda and and many other devotees. From Navadvipa came Shri Pati, Shri Nidhi, and others. From Shantipura came Advaitacharya's Prabhu's son, Achyutananda, Sri Krishna Mishra, and Shri Gopal, as well as many others. From Ambika, Kaina came came Sri Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu and many other Vaishnava. Gradually, they all arrived in Keturi Gram. King Santosha Datta arranged a colossal boat to carry everyone across the river. On the other side of the river, he had arranged for palanquins, ox carts, and the other conveyances to carry the devotees into Keturi Gram. Srinivasacharya, Narottama Thakur, and Raja Santosh went forward to cordially meet the devotees, and after showing them all due respect, they offered the devotees flower garlands, congratulated and welcomed them with great affection. All the devotees were given separate house and servants. All those great Vaishnavas who are the saviors of the world graced the land of Keturi with the dust of their lotus feet, thus transforming it into a great place of pilgrimage. The Sankirtan of those great souls created a thunderous sound that filled the heavens. I would
Daneshwar,
like to be there.
Daneshwar Prabhu, was that Keturi Gram? Is that in Bangladesh?
I don't remember, Prabhu.
I think so. I'm not sure. It's your turn anyway.
Okay, the gates of the temple and the doors of the houses were all well decorated with banana leaves, water pots, auspicious things like mango leaves, small water pots decorated with auspicious signs and different kinds of flowers. All the big gateways and ornamental arches in the city, as well as the doors and all the houses, were decorated with colorful, auspicious symbols like swastikas and six-pointed stars. The whole effect was one of unprecedented beauty and enchantment. Just before the festival stage, in different places were mountains of all kinds of earthen pots, all kinds of silver vessels, and gigantic containers filled with milk, ghee, and thousands of earthen pots filled with yogurt. All these water pots, earthen pots, silver vessels, and giant containers, as well as giant heaps of vegetables, produce, and fruit that were to be prepared for the festival, combined to give the appearance of a great and beautiful mountain.
I would
The
just
day
take
before the installation ceremony, the devotees, on the order of Sri Janama Mata, began making the final preparations for the installation of the deities on the holy appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That evening, they began the preliminary celebratory ceremonies by performing Sankirtan after Narottama Thakur had first offered chandan and flower garlands to Sri Janava Mata and properly worshipped her. Thereafter, all the devotees were decorated with garlands, and upon the request of Sri Narottama and Srinivasacharya, Sri Raghunandana Thakur sang Mangalacharna, the auspicious invocation. On and on into the middle of the night, the devotees performed Sankirtan in order to make the atmosphere auspicious for the great festival that was to follow the next day. After chanting and dancing into the middle of the night, the Vaishnavas finally took rest. Many thousands of people honored Mahaprasad that night, and on the eve of the great festival of Keturi Gram. So this is the first celebration of Gaur Purnima, Lord
right.
Chaitanya's appearance.
But this is actually after his disappearance. Is that correct?
Yes. But Janava Mata was the presiding personality there.
So she organized it all.
Yeah, I don't remember the details, but yeah, it was, in any case, everybody accepted her as the foremost devotee.
I find it to be a paradox that the sacred symbols of swastikas and six-pointed stars, what we would call the Star of David today, were both being utilized to adorn the walls.
Well, because those symbols were present in Vaishnava culture way long before Judeo-Christianity came about.
Right.
And many will say that they were co-opted by those other religions
Mm-hmm.
for the purpose of accommodating or converting the Vaishnavas into their fold.
I see. Mm-hmm. Sikarani, like to continue?
Yeah.
Where were we? Okay, the next morning, why don't you read 2 paragraphs?
Okay. The next morning, the installation ceremonies and the celebration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance began with all the Vaishnavas performing Mahasankirtan. Srinivas Acharya presided over the auspicious Abhishek ceremony for the 6 deities that were being installed. About an hour before Srinivas Acharya was to perform the Abhishek, the 6 deities arrived within the temple. At that time, the local devotees, as well as those who had come from far away, arrived there. The orators spoke and the singers sang sweet songs. The expert dancers performed wonderful dances. The different devotees filled the 4 directions with the ecstatic sounds of the holy name of Krishna and the glories of the Lord. In this way, the 4 directions were filled with ecstasy. According to the appropriate rules and regulations of the Shastras, Srinivasa Acharya performed the Abhishek ceremony, after which the deities were dressed in the finest clothes and decorated with beautiful ornaments. After this, different kinds of sweet rice and wonderful vegetable preparations and drinks and thousands of varieties of foodstuffs were offered to the deities. The 6 deities, Sri Gauranga, Sri Vallavikanta, Sri Krishna, Sri Brajendra Mohan, Sri Radha Ramana, and Sri Radha Kanta, were offered all manner of wonderful preparations of bhoga in different pots. As the bhoga was offered, kirtan was performed. And then, after the deities were satisfied in taking all the preparations to their heart's content, they were offered a soothing mouthwash of tambula. And then the deities were decorated with fragrant chandan and garlands. After this, there was a great erotic during which in great ecstasy of the devotees were found Sankirtan. After performing kirtan and dancing in great bliss, all the devotees, forgetting their material bodies, fell to the ground, offering prostrated dandavats.
After this, Srinivasacharya offered the prasadam chandan and garlands to Janavamata. Thereafter, he gave garlands and chandan to all the devotees present. Srinivas, Sri Narottama, and Sri Shamananda Prabhu distributed all the sandalwood and garlands to all the devotees present. And when they were finished, on the order of Janavamata, Sri Narsingha Chaitanya Das decorated Srinivas, Shamananda, and Narottama with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Gradually, the devotees took their seats in the kirtan hall. Janavamata was seated on an elevated chair at the front of the hall. At that time, on the order of Janavamata and Achyutananda, Sri Narottam Thakur Mahashai began to perform kirtan. Sri Gauranga Das, Sri Gokul Das, and Sri Vallabha Das responded, and Devi Das, Gauranga Das, and the others were the most expert in the assembly gathered in that town of all the different kinds of singing and kirtan, and understood perfectly the different classical modulations of voice, performing music by ear, as well as fixed and unfixed melodies. Boy, I want to go there and get trained up. The sweet and wonderful kirtan of Narottam Thakur, with its sweet tune and unique style of voice, filled the 4 directions and the heavens above, causing all the men and women to weeping to tears of prema, and they all sported in the waves of the Vaikuntha ocean of ecstasy. At that time, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, along with his own personal associates, appeared there. Wow! Panchatattva descended and joined in the Sankirtan. Who can describe the wealth of happiness felt by the devotees when in the midst of their kirtan appeared the munificent Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, like a flash of lightning in the midst of a mass of beautiful clouds? Sri Chaitanya himself appeared within the crowd of devotees through divine manifestation. That's the Bhakti Ratnakar 10.5.7.2 Shuddha Sindhu.
Mahaprabhu appeared in the midst along with Sri Narahari, Sri Mukunda, Sri Gauridas Pandit, Sri Awaita Acharya, Nityananda, Madhava Ghosh, Vasu Ghosh, Govinda Ghosh, Acharya Purandara, Sri Mahesh, Sri Sankara, Sri Dara, Sri Jagadish Pandit, Sri Yadunandana, Sri Kashiswara, and many of the other of the Lord's internal associates. They danced in a large company with a cast of thousands, and in their midst, Sri Achyutananda, Sri Raghunananda, Sri Pati, and Sri Nidhi, as well as many others, joined together in the intense devotional ecstasy of that great kirtan of singing and dancing. How overwhelmed in ecstasy were Advaita and Nityananda. How wonderful was the circle the devotees made around Sri Chaitanya, who danced in its middle. Sri Nivasa Acharya and Narottama Thakura fully understood this pastime as the wonderful manifestation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy. It was an act of grace shown to Srinivas Acharya and Narottama Thakura. With this, their satisfaction was complete.
Daneshra, looks like you're next.
Okay. When Mahaprabhu, who is most affectionate to all devotees, appeared with his own eternal associates, Srinivasa Acharya and Narottama Thakur felt complete joy and satisfaction. After the Sankirtan, Sri Janama Mata offered the deities some red powder, which is usually thrown by Hindus at the time of the holy festival. After this, upon her order, the devotees began to play with the dye powder by throwing it all over each other in great joy. The first holy festival. Huh?
Yeah.
Everyone's body was covered with the red powder as the devotees threw it on each other. In this way, after the fun they had with the red dye powder, the evening approached and time came to celebrate the appearance of Sri Gauranga with an Abhishek ceremony. When the twilight came, the bathing ceremony began, and it was conducted by Srinivasa Acharya, as the devotees sang the Abhishek song for Mahaprabhu's appearance, ceremony, and celebration. The song went like this, and Gora, you should sing this because you're the best.
Okay, what an honor to sing this song.
Paguna.
I'm thinking like the Guru Puja song, Palguna Purnima Mangalera Sima Prakata Gokula Indu Nadia Nahagare Pratigare Gare Utale Anande Sindhu Kibako Paraspare Sachi Devi. No, I'm sorry. It would be Kiba Katuka Paraspare. They're changing the meter here, I see. Sachi Devi Bale Putra Loya Kole Vilase Sotika Kare Balaka Dehite Doyat Charibite Kehana Taraye Driti Prahananda Kareke Chine Kahare Asam Kyalo Kera Gati Balaka Madhuri Dechi Anki Pari Pasare Apana Deha Narahari Koya Sachira Tanoya Prakasheki Navaneha. Your turn, isn't it, Danishwar?
At an auspicious time during the full moon evening of the month of Palgun, Krishna, the Lord of Gokula, made his appearance within the town of Nadia as the ocean of ecstasy rose, flooding every house. At that time, everyone had great fun with one another. Sachi Devi was healthy and happy as the baby played on her lap within the house of Jagannath Sutta. Morning, noon, and evening and night, everyone wanted to see the child, to touch him and hold him. Accepting all kinds of difficulties to get a chance to see the new child, unlimited numbers of people went to the house of Jagannath Mishra to visit. Everyone packed their eyes to the brim with a charming vision of that sweet boy, and seeing that beautiful sight, they forgot their own bodies. Narahari says that the divine appearance of the son of Sachi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this way increased everyone's affection and brought their hearts to the point of melting.
I'm trying to understand, Dineshwar. Is this sort of like Narottam Das Thakur sort of entered into the Nitya Leela because Lord Chaitanya is just making his appearance here, even though he's already left the planet?
Well, it's a celebration of the appearance of the Lord. This is the first Gorpanim festival. So that, this song is about the appearance of the Lord.
I get it, but Narottam Das Thakur is experiencing all of this, right?
Well, it said that he saw the appearance of the Lord in the crowd, so maybe he's seeing this also. It'd be speculation on my part. I don't know.
Yeah. Do we have that concept of parallel universes in our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy?
Sure. The spiritual world is all around us right now.
Right. And Krishna's Leelas are going on constantly. Everyone was fully absorbed in the ecstasy of kirtan day and night. No one could think of anything else. Wow, I got a long way to go. Finally, it was time for Mangal Artik, and the Artik began. When the dancing and singing for Mangal Artik was finished, the Vaishnavas offered obeisances to one another and returned to their kutirs to take their morning baths. That's interesting. They stayed up all night, went to Mangal Artik, and then went home and took their bath. In this way, Sri Janava Mata quickly took bath, and in order to cook for the deities, she entered the kitchen. Being expert in the science of cooking, Sri Janava Mata, within a short time, had prepared various kinds of sabjis and other vegetables, dishes, sweets, cakes, and beverages. Srinivasacharya performed the abhishek and the puja and offered the bhoga to the deities. So we're reminded here why Srila Prabhupada called Krishna consciousness the kitchen religion. And sometimes he called his first disciple, Kirtanananda, Kitchen Ananda. Did you know that, Shuddha? Are you a good cook, Shuddha? Do you use the cookbook sometimes to cook for your deities?
Oh, just Chinese style cooking.
Oh,
I'd like to know. I'd like to see your Chinese style cooking. I think it'd be wonderful.
Dineshwar Prabhu and I, are you going to invite Dineshwar Prabhu and I over for prasadam sometime?
Yeah, if you come over Malaysia, why not?
I think we would both love to try your Chinese style cooking.
Yeah. Can.
When my mom kicked me out of the house at 17 years old, I thought, oh no, I won't have mom's cooking anymore. What am I going to do? And I thought, well, it was always a treat when we would have Chinese takeout. Mom would order, chop suey from the Chinese takeout place. But then I realized if I just buy a wok and get a wok cookbook and get a bottle of tamari and ginger and get snow peas and carrots, tofu, it can be Chinese takeout every day. And so I would eat like that every day. Brown rice and stir fry vegetable. And I offered it to Krishna because that's what the cookbook said. I had
We do use a little bit of mushroom. A little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe it's not allowed in the it's not allowed in the temple. But at home, I asked my Guru Maharaj. He said a bit is okay, because you see, devotees in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, they cannot cook without mushroom. It's just a bit to get the taste. It's a must. It's a tradition.
That's funny. I have a Yamuna Devi cookbook. I think it's called India. It was one of the last ones that she made. And I was surprised. She has a recipe with mushrooms. There's a letter where Prabhupada said we cannot offer to the deities, but
I think temple standard is not allowed. At home, a bit should be okay.
He didn't say that we can't eat them. He just said we can't offer them to the deities.
Well, some mushrooms are grown in stool, but many mushrooms are grown on wood.
Uh-huh. Right. I know that mushrooms like shiitake, maitake, ganoderma, fuling, these are very high in, what are they called? Biosaccharides, immunomodulators. They're very effective against cancer. Very good for boosting the immune system. Shiitake, maitake, and so forth. I take them as supplements myself. Lion's mane is supposed to be very good for the brain, which I need a lot of help with. I take lion's mane. I was in Ithaca, New York, a couple of years back. I went there to give a talk at Cornell University, and I went to the farmer's market, and I saw a lion's mane mushroom. I'd never seen one before. Have you ever seen one?
That big? Like
Yeah.
you're holding?
Yeah, it was yellow and all expanded like this. I'd never...
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Anyway, I asked my Ayurvedic doctor in India before I left 2 years ago. I said, I know in Chinese medicine mushrooms are revered, but I don't read anything about them in Ayurveda, and I understand they're like tamasic, aren't they? And he said, we have maybe 5% of the knowledge of Ayurveda left today. He said the British and the Muslims, they destroyed the Ayurvedic.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. In other words, and then he gave a saying. He said something like, Jagat Ashaudam, that everything in the universe is medicine, if you know how to use it. Which I thought that was a very vast explanation of Ayurvedic or naturopathic medicine. Like in Chinese medicine, if someone has a heart failure, if you give them just a pinhead of arsenic, you can jolt them back. But you have to know what you're doing. It's amazing. I find this fascinating. You know, when Krishna says, I am the healing herb, you look in the Materia Medica of Chinese medicine, there's over 2,000 herbs listed. They're just amazing. It's fascinating.
Well, just like the Chinese pharmacy, you know, it's all herbs
Yeah.
and different minerals also.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I've gone many times to Chinese. I'll go to a Chinese medical doctor any day before I go to big pharma.
Allopath, yeah. Please allow me to take my leave. I'm
Me
falling
too.
asleep.
Please accept my respectful obeisances. Thank you very much for coming, Raga, Shuddha Rasangi's here, and we're leaving. Sorry, Rasangi. I was telling Sarvani today how grateful I am that you come regularly. Thank you. Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripasindhubhya
Sindhubevacha Pititanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila Narottama Das Thakur Ki Jai.
Hi.
See you on Friday for Sri Upadeshamrita,
Hari Hari Bo.
verse number 3. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hari Hari. Jai. Jai. I'm trying to see how to shut this off. Okay, I have to stop the share. Sorry. Hey, it's my pal Raghavendu Prabhu. Haribo Prabhu. We just finished reading about Narottama Das Thakur and the first Gaur Purnima festival. It's pretty amazing.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Good night, my Portuguese god sister. Como está? Mucho.
That's a Spanish, not Portuguese. Como está?
Como
Português.
está and obrigado.
Obrigada.
Obrigado.
De nada, de nada.
Okay. See you on Friday for Nectar of Instruction. Maybe if we're double blessed, Raghavendu Prabhu may make an appearance and instruct us on the Nectar of Instruction.
Hare Krishna.
Is there, what is it? Madhura? Krishna Madhur Vasant Ras tonight. even though the river is frozen outside my window. It's actually full moon tonight. It's a Rasa Leela dance festival tonight. Shri Krishna Vasant. Shri Krishna Madhura Utsava, it's called. Yeah, that the Purnima or full moon of Damodar month is usually in the autumn season. It's the second full moon. But the second Rasa Yatra, celebrated more in Bengal, is tonight. Tonight's the night. And it's recommended that one should perform full worship of Radha and Krishna with many flowers and place them in the Rasa Mandap surrounded by the gopis. And yeah, this is Shri Krishna Vasant Ras is similar, excepting that it is in the spring, Vasant. So I'm a little bit confused because I guess there's a few Rasa Leelas every night, right? Shri Krishna Madhura Utsava. It's a Rasa Leela celebration. And it's recommended to be wearing yellow today. That's why I've got my yellow hoodie on. And this is the night that you're supposed to leave sweet rice out. Payasam. For the Lord to enjoy during his rasas. So, we just did another recording today with Tapa Punj Prabhu, speaking on, the title was Civil War, and Civil War and Srila Prabhupada's second half. And just explaining the importance of devotees learning to grow their own food. Because the way the economy is going, the way everything is going in the world right now. Like last weekend I went to Ottawa and I did dancing in the streets. We're with 60,000 truckers in downtown Toronto. Ottawa, I mean. 60,000 truckers were there. And they had a stage set up in front of the Parliament buildings. And we had a blast. Jivan Mukta went up on the stage. He had a speech prepared about freedom. And nobody can take away our freedom. And freedom is intrinsic quality of the soul. And ultimately, freedom is meant for devotional service. And people were going, yeah, yeah. They were cheering us on. And it was like, it was a party. It was this Sankirtan party. Big street party. Huge party. People were making free pizzas in the street in front of the Parliament buildings. They had playgrounds set up for the kids. Sorry, I can't hear you. I'll unmute you, Raghavendu Prabhu. What were you saying? I'm trying to unmute you. Ask to unmute. Okay, there you are. Haribol. My obeisances to you. Hare Krishna.
How many devotees were chanting?
Yeah, about Pradyumna Prabhu came with about 10 devotees, 10, 12 devotees from Montreal. And Jivan Mukta and I drove 6 hours from Toronto area to Ottawa. So I guess around 14 devotees altogether.
The Ottawa Temple wasn't into it though, right?
They were given orders not to go out on Harinam. Can you believe it?
We are representing the International Society for Krishna Consciousness via your papers. And we have an order today from the Führer, do not go Harinam Sankirtan. It is via Bolton.
Something like that. Achtun. Yeah, very strange.
When you think about it, it really sounds ridiculous.
The argument that was given is that Prabhupada would never want us to be affiliated with some political party, the truckers.
When we went to all the anti-Vietnam, we used to go to the anti-war rallies.
Right.
That's where I first met the devotees, at the anti-war rallies.
Uh-huh.
In 1969 in the spring of 69, no, summer of 69 in Berkeley, the People's Park. People's Park 2 riot and demonstration. There were 50 devotees there on Harinam Sankirtan. And most of the men actually did have socks that did not match. And their heads were shaved, but they missed spots. Like they would miss big spots, right?
Our trade.
Put the tilak on properly. There were so many new devotees, right? And then I was with Pusta Krishna actually, and then me and Pusta Krishna we went from the University of Florida. We went to Washington D.C. for the giant anti-war rally in November 15th, 1969. And it was cold, you know how it's not Canada cold, not Ottawa cold. No, it was 35 degrees all day and windy though.
20 below zero. I went out for 7 hours and 20 below zero.
What in Fahrenheit or Celsius?
That's Celsius.
20. So that's like, well, 20 degrees below 32 Fahrenheit. But 20 degrees, wait. But your degrees are less. No, more, because it's less, because it's 100 degrees. Boiling's 100 degrees Celsius. And it's 212 Fahrenheit. So for every Celsius, yeah, it's smaller. Right. So it was like 15 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that.
My legs went into, when I came out of when I came out of doing those 7 hours on the street, I laid down on the bed in the motel and my legs went into spasms. Crazy. I had to go in hot water in the bathtub because my legs got all cramped.
Well, we had a Harinam. We didn't do it publicly. We just did it in a park today. In the park we have Harinam. It's a bunch of Prabhupada disciples who live in Santa Cruz. And Malati came, but she didn't even talk. She was very quiet. Just wore a big mask. Didn't say boop.
Malati was there today?
Yeah, she's visiting. Is she visiting Concord or something? Is that what it is?
And that's where Shama Sundar lives.
And that's where Shama Sundar lives.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so we were all upset. It was supposed to be 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It only got up to 65. And you should have seen all the old devotees. I was just wearing shirt sleeves because I was playing the mridanga, right? Everybody was all bungled up because it was 65 and a little breezy. What would people in Ottawa think? They would think they were nuts, right?
We were about, I don't know, like in the afternoon it was packed. Not a single person wore a face mask. There was tens of thousands of people. Not a single person wearing a mask. There was no fear. People were in such a joyful mood. Everyone was like punching each other like this. Hey, right on. People came and danced with us in the kirtan. One lady came up. She said, "Are you Hari Krishna? Are you with ISKCON?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "My friend has been living in Vrindavan for 27 years. She went there after her husband died. And
wow.
And I've been to Krishna Balaram temple and I just loved it there." And those are the kind of people we were meeting.
Wow.
While that little tyrant Trudeau is up there in the Parliament buildings, he declared it martial law now, you know.
Did you know that lady? Did you see the lady who explained the details of it?
Which one was that?
The brunette lady. It's like 40 years old or something.
Okay.
He had her explain how they were going to take the money away from everybody.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
She has on the website, on the what's it called, the World Economic Forum website.
Yeah.
She's on the website. She has a big official position with the World Economic Forum.
No wonder. Not surprised.
Right.
Big scam.
Yeah, I gotta use my phone.
Oh, she has to use her phone.
Thanks for your association. See you Friday for Shri Upadesh Amrita. Don't miss it.
Yeah, you're going to be home in time or so. All right.
You have it, your phone.
You have to send it to me. I get it. Oh, he puts it on his web. Oh, it's on your Facebook page. How to get on it.
I haven't been on Facebook in a month. I'm kicked off. I'm suspended.
No, wait. You know how you can keep? I've done the most outrageous stuff on Facebook. What I do is I go to like NBC News or CNN. They all have any of the New York Times or all these liberal outlets, so-called liberal. They're really globalists, right? They're not
Right.
liberal. Okay, so they have all these. When they put an article up, they put the article on Facebook. And then if you go, like, you actually went to like NBC News, like there's 100 comments. On Facebook, there's thousands of comments
Right.
on the Facebook page. They have their Facebook page. And I go on and I just blast the mainstream, just blast. I say the most incendiary things. And sometimes what will happen was I'll get somebody will reply to me and I'll click on it to have it go to the page. And it says the page has been deleted. You've lost privileges to go to the page.
Yeah.
Right. But usually that doesn't happen. And they don't police that to the same degree that if you put it on your own page, that's what they're looking for.
I don't think I have a page anymore.
Well, if you went the page it used to have, you think you're permanently banned from Facebook?
Yeah.
They told you you're permanently banned?
They said they were analyzing my posts to see if I was within the community guidelines. Otherwise, I'm suspended permanently.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's because I've had 6 previous bans.
Wow. I think Bhaktadas I think the same thing's happening to Bhaktadas.
Yeah.
Facebook jail?
Who's in jail?
No, it's Facebook jail.
Oh,
He refers to it as Facebook jail.
oh, Facebook jail. Okay, gotta go.
Thanks, Sangi. Good to see you. Thank you for your association.
I always love it. Thank you. See you Friday.
Hare Krishna. Good night.
Bye.